Welcome back, everyone, to Box Podcast. This is the second time I'm doing this intro because my microphone wasn't recording the first time. Luckily, you missed the fact that I just introduced myself as Matt rather than Luke, which is a very strange thing to happen. But if you are new here, do follow along and subscribe on YouTube. Give us a 5-star rating wherever you're listening to us, only if you think it's a 5-star podcast, but definitely comment down below wherever you are consuming this podcast, because engagement makes a massive difference. We are Box Pod, powered by Box Club. If you do want an ultra subscription, then check out the link in the description down below. And if you want to see more of us, then head over to Instagram and TikTok and search Box Clips on TikTok, Box Pod on Instagram. But look, enough of this chatter. Let's get on with the show, because we have a Grand Prix to look forward to.
All right, guys, welcome along. As Luke said, welcome along to a brand new week. It is race week. And last week, let's just say we put out a few clips that maybe triggered a few fans. And there's one in particular, Max Verstappen fans, that feel like you and I maybe got off on the wrong foot. You know, I have a lot of time for Max Verstappen, and I think he's a fantastic driver. But you gave me a lot of shit this week. I think one of the clips had over 1,000 comments, and I couldn't read them all. It wasn't probably safe for me.
They were all nice. They were all just saying, like, guys, like, we completely agree with you.
If you don't know what I'm talking about, I just said basically, where are Max Verstappen fans now? You know, for the last however many years since 2021, we've had a lot of stick for Lewis Hamilton fans, and even from Lando Norris fans saying, you know, Lewis Hamilton is washed. He's not the old Lewis Hamilton. He's past it and all of this stuff. He needs the best car to win races. And obviously, now we come into this new era. You know, Lando's struggling a bit. Max Verstappen's struggling. Where are they now? You know, they do need the best cars to actually compete. And I don't think that's actually a wrong comment. I don't think that's a bad thing to say. You know, you have the driving style, yes, and the ability, but you need a good car to go with that. So I don't think that is a bad thing. And I don't think that is a horrible thing to say. But for however many years now, as Lewis fans, we've taken a lot of stick from Lando fans, Max fans, basically saying Lewis is washed because he needs the best car to win. I don't know.
I think it was just an observation that we had made, that maybe that does apply to all drivers. And I think people take things a little bit too seriously. You shouldn't be commenting abuse because we have an opinion on a driver who has no idea who you are. That's all I would say. If we were attacking your family, then maybe I'd understand it. But we're not even attacking them. We just think that it's a good discussion point, that maybe every driver requires the best or nearly the best car in order to win. But let's not forget, normally the best driver ends up in the best car, because that's kind of how it works. They gravitate towards each other, right? The best teams will get the best drivers. And let's not forget also that we said Max Verstappen should be at the front. So curb your hate comments, strap in, enjoy the show, and comment nice things this time.
Let's start off with Max again, shall we? Because I have a question for you, Luke. Mm-hmm. And I want to hear your view on this. Does Max Verstappen regret not going to Mercedes for this year?
Oh, yeah. I mean, he definitely would. I know we spoke about Lewis. You know, does he regret leaving Mercedes? And I think there will be a bit of regret within Lewis, but I don't think he regrets it, if that makes sense. I think if Max genuinely had the opportunity to go to Mercedes, he is probably kicking himself a little bit now. Because he would be on for another world championship. And, you know, Max is not going to win the world championship this year. That's clear. And unless something really dramatically turns around. I think Maybe he's made a few phone calls to Toto already. Who knows?
I think it's difficult, isn't it? Because we're sitting here in hindsight in the fact that we've seen Mercedes start the season really well. Actually, we could come in this season and Red Bull could be absolutely smashing it already, and then no one would think twice about Max Verstappen turning down Mercedes. But now we're in this position where we know Mercedes are the most dominant car so far in this new era of car. It's only 2 races in, I get that. But yeah, Max Verstappen had his opportunity. You saw that last year. Toto Wolff was very open with that. Actually, they did try and get Max Verstappen. And yeah, potentially he could be on for another world championship. So yeah, I can imagine with Max Verstappen's frustration, not only with the new regulation, which he evidently hates. He's in a really bad car at the moment. Red Bull are struggling. And the team who he could have gone to are absolutely smashing it. So if you're Max Verstappen, it's a triple header. You are pissed 3 times there.
Well, Max is actually doing so badly in F1 that he's had to go and race in another series. Which I'm only joking, right? Max went to he was racing GT3s again this weekend. Goes and sticks it on pole in typical Max Verstappen fashion. Like, it's unbelievable that he's able to just go and do that. The fact that... Because there's always this thing, I feel like, in the racing community, which I don't necessarily consider like me to be a part of, but like real diehard racing fans are often like, well, the 20 drivers that are in F1 aren't the best, or the 22 now aren't the best in the world. You might find the best drivers elsewhere in IndyCar, GT3, whatever. I think Max Verstappen has firmly established himself as the best driver alive at this point in time. The fact that he can just kind of piss off into any car and he's quicker than anyone else. There are people that race these cars week in, week out for years. Max Verstappen doesn't. He can just turn up and he sticks it on pole. It's like, how is that possible? And then not only that, he went on to win the race, but again, in typical Max fashion, he had to cheat to do it. So he got disqualified. No, I'm joking. I don't know what the rules are around that. He used too many tires or something. It's one of those things. But again, he won the race, qualified pole. The guy's an animal.
Can you just elaborate what you mean by the Max Verstappen style fashion? He cheats.
No, I've got nothing else to add on that. I don't think Max Verstappen is a cheat. Just to clear the record, because I know what will happen, right? People cherry pick things. I've just sat here and said that Max Verstappen is the best driver on the planet. People will be like, "Oh, you're such a Max hater." Like you call him a cheat. I'm like, I just called him the best driver on the planet. Yeah, you can't pick and choose.
It is very impressive that Max can turn up and do that, and he just looks very confident, very comfortable. Just that transition from a different series, to F1 to this series, it is impressive. It is very, very impressive.
But Max Verstappen did take the opportunity to have a little dig at F1 and the current regulations after his GT3 stint. He decided to say, at least you can drive flat out without looking after the battery. I have to say, Max, it's a very fair point. We can talk about these new regulations all we like, from the racing purist point of view to the sort of fan perspective of what's enjoyable to watch. They're not perfect, but I still stand by the fact they're giving us great racing at the moment.
Yeah, it's difficult, isn't it? I think throughout the season, the next few races I think are key to not the future of F1, but I think the perception of F1 and what people actually think about it. And I think for us, we're getting good racing at the moment. I just hope that the field doesn't spread too too thick, if that makes sense. And I think actually we can kind of get into some good championship battles. But there is drivers which are evidently not happy with this new era of cars. They don't like it. It's not what they signed up for. It's not what they went into motorsport for. And you saw that with the likes of Max. He goes into this series, he can drive flat out, absolutely smash it. Really, really impressive. And then he comes back to, F1, which is meant to be the pinnacle of motorsport. And you're having to, manage batteries, use boost to overtake. You can't drive flat out. And for some drivers, that's what they want to do. That's what they see F1 as.
And I get it as well, right? Because racing is not about driving the fastest car. Racing is about driving the car to its fastest. They should be able to go flat out in these F1 cars. There shouldn't be the revs shouldn't be dropping before they get to the end of the straight, and the speed following suit. I think it is something that I hope will change as these cars develop, because I'm not against the use of electrical power, and if that gives us closer racing and more unpredictable racing like it has in these 2 races so far, then I'm all for it. But there are parts of the cars that need to be addressed and fixed. But so Max probably enjoyed this weekend way more than he enjoyed the previous weekend. But I still don't know if he was winning in this Red Bull. I'm not sure if we'd be hearing the same complaints. I don't know. I don't know him personally.
I don't know. I think Max has been pretty vocal about this since 2023. He's spoken very... He's been very critical of these regulations for a couple of years now. He's seen the telemetry. He knew what was going to be coming. And I actually think he's been very vocal. So I don't even think if he was winning, yes, okay, his attitude would be a bit different. But I don't think he would have been enjoying it as much as what we think he would, if that makes sense, if he was winning. I generally think that actually this is not his type of motorsport. This isn't something how he sees F1. He doesn't see the future of F1 like this.
Yeah. No, and I think to some extent I do agree. I think I also agree his attitude would be different if he was winning, but I don't think his opinion would be different. I think that was well put.
Yeah. Right, let's talk about Jonathan Wheatley, shall we? Because on
Judas Wheatley.
On Friday, it came out that Jonathan Wheatley has left Audi, and there's strong reports linking him with Aston Martin. And look, I'm a bit shocked by this because, Jonathan Wheatley, he's won everything in the sport with Red Bull. He went to stake with the plan that he would go into Audi and he would be there for the project, work alongside Binotto, 2 great drivers in Hülkenberg, Bortoleto. And then all of a sudden, 2 races in, he's like, nah, I don't want to be part of this. And he's heavily linked to Aston Martin to join up with his old teammate, well, his old mate, Adrian Newey. And the question I have is Aston Martin a more attractive team than Audi? Because in my opinion, I don't see that it is. I think the Audi project is a really exciting project. You've got a great, youngster in your car in Bortoleto. You've got a great experience with Hülkenberg. You're building for the future, a great car brand. And you want to leave that and go to a team who can't even get their engine right. The car doesn't even drive properly. You've got you've got Alonso there who's basically carrying that team, and you've got a guy who can't really be asked to drive each week. What, why? I don't know. I don't get it.
I thought about this when, because initially I saw the rumours that the rumours first came out that Adrian Newey was leaving Aston Martin, and then they kind of transformed into, no, Adrian Newey is not going to be team principal. He's going to do the role that he is made for, the designing and whatever. And then it came out about Jonathan Wheatley, and I sat there and I thought, if Jonathan Wheatley makes a move, do I get it? Does it make sense to me? And I think it does. I think. No, I'm not saying he's not a traitor because he's just abandoned this project at the start. But we've spoken very highly of 99% of the Aston Martin project over the last few years. The investment is crazy. The ambition of the team, I think, is incredible, especially from Lawrence Stroll. And I think having such an ambitious man at the very top will play a big role in this. The Lance Stroll thing always makes me question their ambitions truly. But is it a bigger job than... He's going to walk into a shitstorm, essentially. And I'm not sure if it was worth it at this point in time. If he had gone last season, I would understand it completely.
Make logical sense, yeah.
This season, I'm like, man, they're in a world of hell. Why, Audi have started pretty decently. So I just think, I don't know, money talks.
Yeah, I just think they built such a great foundation last year at stake in preparation for the move to Audi, and all of a sudden, you're like, nah, I'm potentially going to go and team up with my old mate, Nui, going to get loads of money. I'm sure he doesn't need the money. I'm sure he got paid all right, very well during his time at Red Bull and even his time at stake and Audi. So it's just sad, because I really thought, especially after watching things like Drive to Survive and things like that you've seen, he was generally really excited about this project. He was nurturing that team, really moving them forward. And 2 races in, you're like, nah, I don't want to do that actually. And I think that's the real sad part. And don't get me wrong, it happens. It's brutal. The sport's brutal. Things change a lot. But I had real high hopes that actually Audi were going to really kick forward this season. But yeah, it looks like he's heavily linked with Aston Martin. So good luck to you.
Yeah, I think it is just one of those. It's probably a bit of a kick in the teeth moment for a lot of the folk at Audi, because it's kind of like, he really talked up this project. Rightly so. I think everyone's excited to have Audi in the sport, and I think everyone will be really happy with how they've started. And then for him to be like, oh, actually, something more attractive has come along. See you later, guys. It's probably a bit like, oh, cheers. It doesn't seem like there's much loyalty there. Which, like you say, it happens. It is the sport. I don't think it makes Jonathan Wheatley a bad guy. I just don't think I expected it from him.
No, and I'm not going to sit here and question his loyalty. He spent years upon years at Red Bull, so it's not like I can understand if he was hopping from teams every couple of seasons and stuff. But look, his time that he gave to Red Bull was a lot, So yeah, it's difficult. But do let us know what your thoughts are on Jonathan Wheatley. Reports linking him heavily to Aston Martin, and he's left Audi. Luke, I think you and I need to thank one person for Lewis Hamilton's success so far this year.
God, I thought you were about to just do a brand deal. I thought you were just coming in with an advert.
Oh yeah,
that I didn't know about.
I forgot to tell you. Yeah, we got a brand deal. But no, Luke, you and I have got to thank one person for the potential change in mentality and success that we've seen in Lewis Hamilton this year. Do you know who it is?
Is it a South American shaman that lifted a curse on him?
Who is it?
It's you?
It's not me. We've got to thank Kim Kardashian, because look, whatever they've done over the winter break, she's obviously got Lewis Hamilton in a very good place now.
I think we know what they were doing over the winter break.
Yep. And it's obviously worked, because we're starting to see old Lewis Hamilton back. So from Luke and I, Kim Kardashian, we want to thank you. It is great to see.
A man just needs a good woman in his life.
And Kim Kardashian seems to be that woman. So delighted, because it's obviously helping. We've got our old Lewis back. It's happy days, and long may it continue, because we like what we see.
We do.
Right. This is a bit of a... McLaren fans, you may want to close your ears here, because I've got an embarrassing stat for you. We've spoken about Aston Martin, how awful they are. However, they have completed this season, after 2 races so far, 105 racing laps. McLaren have only completed 58 laps. I'm not saying that actually makes Aston Martin better than you, but it seems more reliable than the McLaren.
Yeah, I think, look, I think I said this last week. It was along the lines of McLaren won't be worried about the car that they've produced, in that, you know, it's actually not a bad car when it works. They will definitely be concerned about these reliability issues. It's still very early. You know, this situation that happened in China could be the only time they experience anything like that this season. I think it's always worse when it happens second race in, because now you're thinking, well, you know, how often is that going to happen? That so far it's 50% of the races. Now, if you got to the end of the season and it was 50% of the races, you'd say they've got some serious problems. But I think it always makes it look worse than it actually is. What cockpit would you rather be in right now?
Oh, McLaren.
Yeah, so, you know, I don't think McLaren have big problems, unless they consider not being in a championship battle a big problem. Then they do. But I think McLaren will do just fine. Yeah,
no, I'd agree with you. I think they'll turn it around relatively quick, and I don't think we'll see that again from the likes of McLaren. Interestingly, so there's a few comments that came out last week from the clips we put out, and this one was an interesting one, because there's been a lot of reports that Max Verstappen is going to retire at the end of the season. He's done with F1. He doesn't want to be around the sport.
Retire? Hang on. Max Verstappen is 28 years old. He can't retire.
Well, he can retire from F1. But, Luke, this was a good question from Seco. And they've gone, if Max leaves F1, he will take away 20 to 30% of fans with him. Is that true?
How's this person worked that out? Like, what's the math behind that calculation?
Can't tell you.
Well, he's just plucking a number out of thin air, isn't he? So, look, Max has, I'd argue, probably the best following on the whole grid. You know, the Orange Army are incredible. You know, they are a real sight to witness. But I don't believe they just stop watching F1 because Max isn't racing. I don't think that's the case. I truly believe we would lose some viewers. Naturally, I think when you lose Lewis, you're going to lose some viewers. You're not going to lose 20 to 30%. Could you imagine Formula One got, I don't know how many, 500 million weekly viewers. All of a sudden Max leaves and they're only getting like 300 million. Like, come on. Like, that's just mental.
No, I agree. I think people will still watch even if Max did leave.
But we need to keep Max in the sport. Max needs to be in the sport. We need Max Verstappen racing in F1. You can't push Max into an early retirement. You know, we should have the best driver in F1.
Yeah, agree. Talking about Ferrari, as we saw last week in China, some very, very close battles between Charles and Lewis. And there's been a lot of speculation that actually Ferrari should potentially have implemented, team orders preventing the potential of crashing. But Luke, should Ferrari have implemented team orders in China?
No. like,
see, I agree with you. I don't think they do. I do not think you bring in Lewis Hamilton to go alongside Charles Leclerc to then go on the radio. I understand if it's like the final race of the season and Charles or Lewis is going for the championship, but with second race in, I don't think you bring them both in to go, do you know what? Don't overtake each other because there might be a chance of crashing.
I think there's a time and a place, right? I think if they were in that position, like the 1 and 2, with whoever, like, or even in the 2 or 3, right? When they were second and third and they had George with them, I think if that was like the last few laps, you have team orders, because that's about preserving the positions. Throughout the race, you can't, Lewis and Charles need to be allowed to race. All of the drivers in that situation need to be allowed to race. I don't think we need team orders, personally.
No, I'd agree with you.
All that does is water it down. Like when you could see they were having a good race, both matching each other pretty well. Why come over the radio and be like, oh yeah, swap positions, or even hold positions? Like, Ferrari weren't at threat from anyone else. They were never at risk of winning the race. So let them have fun.
Yeah, I agree. Sticking with Ferrari, so Charles Leclerc continues to rack up his most race starts for Ferrari. And I've got a bit of a quiz for you, Luke. Because last week, Charles Leclerc went into second of the most starts for Ferrari. But I want you to tell me...
I've seen this chart.
Oh, you've seen it?
Yeah.
So you should be very good at this then.
Oh, yeah, I will be.
Okay. So I'm going to give you the first two because they're pretty easy. So Michael Schumacher has had 179 starts for Ferrari. Charles Leclerc, after last week, went into second with 152. Can you tell me who is third on that list?
Kimi Räikkönen.
Fourth?
Felipe Massa.
Have you got it in front of you?
No, I just remember it.
Oh.
I literally saw it like this morning.
Fifth?
I think fifth is... I think it's Seb and then Barrichello.
Seb and Barrichello. Then we're into double digits.
I don't...
Actually, this one is... They're joint on 96 races, basically.
Yeah, I know it was Alonso and then Sainz. I can't remember the guy.
So Sainz is bottom with 88.
Yeah, I can't.
Berger.
There you go. I told you I'd be good.
It's a good one.
But I think that's really impressive from Charles. That not that he's been able to get there, but that he stayed at that team for that long, for that many races, when they haven't really delivered a car to him, that he deserves. You look like, if you compare that to Michael Schumacher's stint at Ferrari, or even Kimi's, Kimi won a world championship at Ferrari. Charles Leclerc has been there for 150 races, and he's only got a few race wins under his belt.
Yeah, not many, is it? Not many.
So I think that's the impressive thing, that Charles has actually stuck by this team for such a long time.
I agree. Interestingly, right, so say Charles Leclerc had another season, Ferrari end up falling off, they don't end up providing him with a good car. Where else could you see Charles Leclerc going on the grid?
Well, that's the thing. There's nowhere really. It's tricky because it's not... You kind of always would have faith in Ferrari. They've always been a top team. So if you can't go to Mercedes because they're locked in, you realistically can't go to McLaren, but are McLaren more reliable than Ferrari in the sense of, oh, they'll provide us a winning car. I don't think so. I know that might sound backwards because McLaren have just won 2 back-to-back constructors and they've just won the World Drivers' Championship. But I still think on paper you would say you'd believe you were going to win a championship at Ferrari before you were going to win one at McLaren. So I don't know. Red Bull obviously doesn't go there at this point in time. So he kind of has to stay at Ferrari. What's he going to do? Go to Alpine?
Aston Martin?
No.
If they became good and got that on point.
Yeah, if they became good, then I could see Charles Leclerc at an Aston Martin. Well, like, why not? Charles deserves to be racing for a top team.
It's surely Cadillac.
Oh my god. But they've got some problems, Cadillac. They've got some real big problems.
We'll discuss those after the next race. Interestingly, so another comment that came this week, and it was interesting because this one was talking about Max Verstappen. So the comment went, I don't know, I quite like seeing the most unlikable driver struggling. Is Max Verstappen the most unlikable driver on the grid? I can't, like...
No, I think Max has some unlikable traits, which I think is fair. I think he's not unlikable on a personal level. If that I enjoy listening to his interviews and stuff, and I think he always comes across as, like, if you see any of his streams and stuff, like, he always comes across as, like, fine on a personal level. I think his unlikable traits come from his racing, which we see. I can even go back to his streaming thing here. Did you ever see that clip where someone, like, ran him off the road or something, and so Max just absolutely ploughed through him? And it's just like that sort of stuff. I think that's the sort of shit he would do on the racetrack if, like, it wouldn't actually put people at risk. And I think they're the unlikable parts of Max, not his actual character. Yeah. I don't know. Do you agree?
I like, as I said on this podcast many times, after 2021, I did dislike Max, but I think I disliked Red Bull, and because he incorporated in that, it's just I just didn't like him. But he's grown on me. I actually love his interviews. I think his personality is great for the sport. I think if you didn't have Max Verstappen in the sport, it wouldn't be anywhere near what it is from that point of view. So I think people struggle with his manner and how he comes across, but I like it. I think it's great. I just think it's great for the sport. I really do.
I think he's a great addition to the sport, and I agree. It's only ever his, like, behavior on track that was different. Similarly to you, like 2021, I hated the way he breathed. Like, you know, there wasn't anything he could have done that I would have liked, but I think now he's also really earned his attitude and sometimes arrogance. You know, he's a 4-time world champion. He has earned to behave like this. It's purely like the George Russell
thing. He backs it up. I have no issue with people acting like that if you can back it up. But you see a lot of drivers with arrogance who don't back it up.
No, it's true. I mean, you know, Max is the greatest example of put your money where your mouth is. You know, he is everything that he portrays himself as. And I just think that the reason people dislike him, I think the reason people dislike him is because of his behaviour on track sometimes. Like I was about to say, like the George Russell thing last year. Come on.
I didn't see anything wrong with that. Absolutely.
Just driving into the side of someone because you are unhappy. that sort of stuff is just unacceptable.
Yeah. No, true. Let's quickly touch on Williams, because we touched on last week that Williams in a very bad place. And Luke, has James Vowles sold Carlos Sainz a dream he can't deliver?
Oh yeah, right. What Carlos Sainz has been shown is like, you ever go to a restaurant and they've got like pictures on the menu, and you're like, oh my god, that looks great, I'm gonna get that. Whatever that is, I'm having that. Comes out and it looks like dog food on a plate. That's James Vowles showed him the menu, and he was like, yeah, you want it? He said yes, and he got a plate of dog food. He's been sold the dream. James Vowles sold me the dream. You know, I was so convinced, based off the progression that we saw to the tail end of the previous set of regulations. I was so convinced that we were going to see Williams fighting close to the front. I didn't think they were going to be getting race wins, but I did think they'd be in the mixer based on James Vowles.
Yeah,
so
I'm with you.
Carlos Sainz is probably thinking, what have I done to deserve this?
I honestly believed that they were going to be fighting up there this season. And they may do. We're only 2 races in, but yeah, they don't look good. They do not look good.
And that's the thing. A lot can still change. You know, whatever team you support, even if it's Cadillac or Aston Martin, a lot can change from now to even when we see the cars in Japan this week. And then we've got a month off. Like, don't lose faith. Your team may just turn it around.
Got a question here, Luke, which was on our Instagram. Go and check us out on Instagram. It says, why is the bar so high for Lewis and so low for Fernando? It's like Fernando is the 7-8-time world champion and the better driver who should be given grace. I cannot wrap my head around this. Make it make sense.
I don't know. I mean, we've said openly on this podcast that you can't even say Fernando Alonso and Lewis Hamilton in the same sentence. Lewis is in a different stratosphere to Fernando Alonso, and I don't care what you say, that nothing you can say will convince me otherwise. Fernando Alonso, the best part of his career has been very mediocre, and that doesn't mean I think he's a mediocre driver, or, you know, I think Fernando is one of the elites. He's still a 2-time world champion, but you're right, the bar is so low for Fernando Alonso, and it's like, people forget that he hasn't won a race since, like, I don't even know, like 2012 or something. It's been so long. If that was Lewis Hamilton, oh my god, fans would not let that go. We'd never hear the end of it.
You don't hear Alonso's washed. You don't hear Alonso's passed it. You don't hear any of that, do you? You just think, and I don't know if that's just because he's had worse cars than Lewis, that it's been deemed as acceptable. But yeah, it's a strange one. The rules don't seem to apply for someone like Alonso. Everyone still thinks that he's the greatest and he can go on and do it. But yeah, Lewis seems to get the stick.
Lewis Hamilton has always had a target on his back, will always have a target on his back, and it's what comes with, you know, coming into the sport and becoming the biggest person to ever come out of F1. You know, Lewis Hamilton, officially bigger than the sport, and he's got a target on his back because of it. People don't like seeing Lewis win. So what does he do? He wins. Yeah. And, you know, that is just the way it is. I don't know why it's different. But yeah, Fernando gets away with anything. You know, he doesn't get any stick. You're right. I don't see anyone online saying Fernando is washed. And no. I don't think he is. But there would be the same people that back Alonso would be the same people that hate on Lewis.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you. I want to talk about Bortoleto and Ollie Behrman, because interestingly I saw a couple of posts this week, a couple of tweets about, who would most likely become world champion first, or who has the ability to become world champion. And it got me thinking, Bortoleto or Ollie Behrman, who would be world champion first? Or would they be a world champion?
I would put my money on Bortoleto. There's something I see in that guy. Right, I'm just like, I think he's got it. I think he's got it in him. And it's not that I don't see that in Ollie Behrman. It's just if I had to put my money, I feel like my money would be safer on Bortoleto.
No, I would agree with you. I think Ollie Behrman, will be a Ferrari driver one day. And I do believe he'll go on and be a world champion. But there's something about Bortoleto at this moment in time where he's, for someone who's so young, looks a very composed driver. He's got the pace. He showed what he could do in that stake last year, where it wasn't great, but he still delivered. But you could say that about Ollie Behrman, really. You could say about both of them. But yeah, I'd agree with you. I'd probably say Bortoleto would be the first. I
think you talk about Bortoleto's season last year. I think it was, other than Lewis Hamilton's debut season, I think it was the model rookie season. He came in, he didn't really crash out. He had very minimal damage. I think it wasn't until Silverstone that he actually had his first incident. And we saw him, his curve went upwards. He got better and better and better. He didn't cause the team any hassle. You didn't hear him over the radio being gobby. He was just, I think he just had a perfect debut season. And I think we're just going to see him get better and better. And hopefully Audi can provide him the car so we can truly watch him excel. But if not, I do think there will come a point where he gets a big move.
No, I'd agree. Do let us know. Shall we look at Japan this race week? So
is my sleep pattern going to be ruined?
Potentially. It's not as bad. Not as bad as what we've had. So on Friday, FP1 is 2:30 until 3:30 a.m. in the UK. And then FP2 is 6 till 7 a.m. And then on Saturday, FP3 is 2:30 till 3:30. Qualifying is 6 till 7, which is fine. Fine. And the race is 6 till 8. That's not bad. I take that. I take the
6 to 8. I can live with that.
Yeah. So the question is, Luke, obviously, the final race before we get 4 weeks off, 5 weeks off, something like that.
Yeah, long time.
Who is your top 3 for the Japanese Grand Prix?
That's a drum roll, by the way. Look, I'm not going to allow blind delusion to carry me through this prediction. I am going to say that Lewis Hamilton is probably going to win the race. No, I'm kidding. George Russell. My money's on George. That Mercedes is just a little bit too quick at the moment. I think where it will get really complicated is when we come back after this sort of weird spring break that we've got. But I think we'll see the Mercedes win fairly comfortably. So I'm going to go George, Kimi, Sir Lewis.
I'll take that. I would say George, Lewis, Kimi.
What, is Kimi going out on 3 wheels or something?
Yeah, he has a slow stop. Yeah. He has a really bad start. He ends up being back. He drops down to P7. Old Kimi is back.
One thing I can guarantee you is that Lewis Hamilton or Charles Leclerc will be P1 into the first corner.
This is probably very true.
Put money on it.
Yeah.
It's not financial advice.
I'm really excited. Obviously, we don't have Jack doing this year, crashing into turn 1, so he's not there. Will the Aston Martins finish the race?
Look, I really want to see this Aston Martin work. I want to see what that car has in its locker, because Adrian Newey's designed it. You know, it does look like it physically looks like a great car, right? And it does look different to the others. I think we're being robbed of a potentially really good car because they've got engine issues. You know, Fernando Alonso retired last week because he couldn't feel his hands because the vibrations were so bad. Now, I'm not sure if this is long enough for them to get the problem solved, but I really hope that by the time we come back after April, we are seeing Aston Martin just in their normal state.
It'd be interesting to see if they can turn this around. And by that time, who knows, they might have Jonathan Wheatley there with them. Final question. Will all cars actually start the race this week?
No. There'll be something that will happen to someone. Look, it's unpredictable. We are still very early in this totally new era of cars.
My money's on Alex Albon starting from the pit lane.
Oh yeah, one of the Williams will be. And you can bet your bottom dollar on an angry Alex Albon radio message as well, at some point.
And Carlos Sainz going, "What am I doing here?"
Yeah, just shaking his head in silence.
His dad must be going, "Look, you could have gone to Audi. Audi seemed to have a better project, but you decided to come to Williams. You've sold us a dream. James Vowles, you're a fraud." Hopefully not. I want Williams to succeed, so hopefully they do turn it around.
Yeah, but that's the same about the Aston Martin point, like, and Cadillac. People think we give Cadillac a hard time. It's no good having useless cars on the grid. For fans, it's just pointless. You know, nobody wants to watch a car go around a track slow. Nobody wants to watch a car get lapped 2 times. Nobody wants to see a car that doesn't start, let alone finish. I want all the cars to be good. So, you know, we wish the best for every team, always. I don't want to see any team suffer.
No, exactly. Right. That is the end of the podcast. A bit of a shorter one this week, but it is race week. We'll be back next week reviewing the Japanese Grand Prix. Hopefully you've enjoyed the podcast. Thank you so much for all the engagement this past week. Do check us out on all social media. Do follow us on Spotify. You can now also watch it on there as well. Do follow us on YouTube. We really appreciate it. But yeah, it is race week. I'm excited. Early start, but going to hopefully be worth it. And hopefully we have some good racing. And yeah, Luke, have a good week. Oh, by the way, I didn't ask you. Are you okay after yesterday?
What, my man of the match performance for Barkham FC?
No, I'm just talking about Liverpool.
I haven't even seen the result.
You haven't seen the result? Well, I can tell you, Brighton beat you 2-1. So
and
there you go. That is the end of the podcast.
Everyone.
Have a great week, and we shall see you soon. Bye-bye.